What's up everybody, Brian Tong here, and yes, next to me, this is my review for the M4 14-inch MacBook Pro, the M4 16-inch MacBook Pro, and these things pack a whole bunch of power. Alright, so we know how Apple Silicon has completely transformed Apple and their Mac lineup, and that holds true definitely with their MacBook Pro lineup. I've had an M1 Max all this time, so I'm really curious how these will perform. This is an M4 Pro 14-inch, and this is an M4 Max 16-inch, right? So two different machines with two different processors, but let's talk about some of the details here that you can check out that are different from the previous model. So with this, whether it's an M4 or an M4 Pro, MacBook Pro, you'll see here, I'm gonna close this up. There's one Thunderbolt port here, all right? And then over here on this side, there are two Thunderbolts. So that's a combination of three total. Previous generations only had two, and what this enables you to do is obviously connect to more displays, but the biggest thing is if you have the M4 configuration, these are going to be Thunderbolt 4 ports, but if you get the M4 Pro configuration and higher, these are actually going to be Thunderbolt 5 ports that allow you to have faster data transfers and throughput. So that's going to be, I guess you could call it the more upgraded, optimized version. So whether or not, depending on how you use your laptop, that's what's going to be different here. Now, the other big thing, when you look at both of these, the 16-inch, the ports are the same. Yes, it does have Thunderbolt 5, but the design, right, the thickness, the displays, they're all the same, but there's one characteristic that really makes these different, and that's the nano texture display. So what I have here, normally, when I'm playing around with this, you'll see when I open up this, the lights will really hit it really harshly. You can even maybe see a little bit of light reflections, but it's completely diffused because this is the new option for a nano texture display. Now that is a $150 upgrade, but I'm gonna tell you right now, this makes this very special because not only do you have the ability for these laptops to have higher brightness, right? You were talking about 1000 nits brightness for SDR content before it was 600. That's gonna matter when you go outdoors and use these. And then also you add the nano texture display coating as the option. It's that matte finish. As a content creator, someone who takes this on the go, this is a killer option. Yes, the blacks may be slightly less inky because of the nano texture coating, but the advantage you get to really be able to use this in almost any environment without seeing reflections, without that shiny display, that's an advantage. Also, for people that are curious, if you look closely, the nano texture display covers the entire thing. It covers the bezels. It covers every aspect of it. There's just, even the notch, it covers, except there, if you look closely, the circle where the camera is, that's where it's exposed, so you'll be able to use that 12 megapixel camera with center stage on this display. So everything, right? You might look at something like the iPad Pro where the bezels were still glossy. This entire display has the nano texture. So the big differences here for this lineup, new M4, M4 Pro, and M4 Max chip options. The nano texture coating, that's another option. And then the 12 megapixel center stage camera, and then the Thunderbolt 5 port option if you're on an M4 Pro chip or higher. Otherwise, you're basically gonna get the same. Now, this is I mentioned my M1 Max, this is my workhorse. This is what I've been using since day one. So enough of, talking about specs here. Let's actually talk about benchmarks and real world use, because I think that's gonna reveal how much better performance-wise these have become. Now let's really target in on the M4 Max MacBook Pro. You can check out my channel. We did a review of the Mac Mini that had an M4 Pro, so you can see those benchmarks there, but I'm really looking at the highest of the highs, right? The peak performance laptop that you can get, and that's something that I want to compare it to. So we're gonna start off with Geekbench 6 benchmarks. This is gonna give us an overall comparison of at least where these machines generally stand. Now this M4 Max MacBook Pro, this is loaded with their 16-core CPU, 40-core GPU. That is typical for the Max models. You got 128 gigs of unified memory and then 4 terabytes of storage for this model. And Apple sent this to me just for the purposes of this review. Okay, so let's look at these Geekbench 6 benchmarks. And yes, there are a lot of numbers. I've included something as far back as the original M1. You got a single core score of 1,755. As you keep on moving along, you'll see the increase in performance, but let's focus in on the M1 Max performance. Now we have M1 Max, that started at a single core score of 2,419. If you're talking about the M4 Max MacBook Pro, single core score, 3,948. So you're getting about a 50% increase in performance there, basically from M1 again M4. Now, the reason why I'm not talking about the M2 and M3 as much is because those gains are a little less. If we look at the multi-core score, look at this. The M1 Max has a 12,587 multi-core score. M4 Max, 25,893. That's a whole lot of performance. All right, now let's check out the Metal GPU scores. Yes, this matters to help out with 3D rendering, video exporting, a lot of places where the GPU really comes into play here. Again, as a point of reference to see where we started, M1 Mac Mini 2020, all right, the most basic level, 22,694 Metal score. Well, let's look at all these numbers and you can see them increase along the way. The M4 Max has a 192,143 Metal GPU score. And then you look at something like the M2 Ultra Max Studio score, which is over 223,000. That thing is still a monster compared to the M4 Max. Okay, so we talked about benchmarks. Yes, they give you at least a general idea of comparison, but what I care about is the real world, right? These machines, how does it apply to the actual stuff that I do? So of course, we're gonna look at the Adobe Premiere video rendering exports. So this is the latest version of Adobe Premiere 25.00 running on macOS Sequoia 15.1. And let's look at this because the biggest thing about these new chips, yes, the M1 had no media engine. So for a 13-minute video, we're talking about an export time of 10 minutes and 38 seconds. Now back then, that was actually really good. But now let's fast forward and look along these lines. I'm gonna throw out a real comparison here that matters to me. I have an M1 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro. That time to render and export out that video, 4 minutes and 27 seconds. You go up to the M4 Max MacBook Pro, that's 3 minutes and 39 seconds. So we're talking about a 1 minute difference from what I own to this new M4 Max. You can see all the numbers in between, but for me, I don't know how much that really changes things for my workflow yet. Could I wait an extra minute and not spend an extra $5,000 to $7,000 for a fully loaded machine? I probably can. But then let's look at the Mac M2 Ultra Max Studio, still the king, 2 minutes and 15-second exports. That's in Premiere. That is stupid. All right, let's milk this out for something like a 45-minute video. Yes, we don't really make these videos that often, but it gives us another glimpse into how these machines perform. The M1 Mac Mini, no media engine whatsoever, 1 hour, 44 minutes, and 23 seconds for a 45-minute video export. Keep on going all the way down the line. And again, this comparison I want to shout out, an M1 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro, 23 minutes and 29 seconds for a 45-minute video export. Jump over to the M4 Max MacBook Pro, the one that we're looking at today, 12 minutes and 58 seconds. So for a long extended project like that, you're looking at almost, the time being cut in half, where that might start telling you, okay, this is something significant if you're working on long form projects. A lot of us, we rarely put out 45-minute videos, but it is a sign that, okay, there's a lot of performance in this machine. And then look, let's not ignore Final Cut Pro, where this is a software and hardware optimized to work together. So this is Final Cut Pro 10.8.1, the latest version, again with macOS Sequoia 15.1. And if we look here, the M1 Mac Mini, okay, back then, this is completely optimized Apple ProRes 422 high quality, 4 minutes and 40 seconds to export a 15-minute video. M1 Max, 16-inch MacBook Pro from 2021, 55 seconds. That's because it has the media engine, which turbo boosts it basically to export these projects with Final Cut Pro. We look at the M4 Max MacBook Pro, 48 seconds. So you're saving about 7 seconds here. And again, even in Final Cut Pro, I don't know if that's enough for me to really throw down a large amount of cash just for like even a 7-second difference. That makes it hard. And then, yeah, M2 Ultra Max Studio at 37 seconds, stupid, just stupid. So what's my overall take on these machines? First of all, I didn't mention it earlier, but the battery power on this is excellent. Now, Apple claims it's 24-hour, can go up to 24 hours. That's gonna depend on how you use it, but I easily got through the day doing all different types of tasks, including video editing and rendering. So performance-wise, battery life, these are impressive. But from a day-to-day, I felt like I use this exactly the same. I think for me, yes, the performance is improved on something like the 16-inch M4 Max, but the biggest change was the nano texture coating. I thought I really was able to use this comfortably and not even flinch about any glare in different environments. That changes, at least for me, where I can comfortably use this. Yes, was I able to do it with a display that had a glare? Sure. But when you get those little kind of extra accoutrements, it does make a difference. Now, I'm not saying that I'm gonna completely upgrade my machine just because there's a 7-second difference in Final Cut Pro and a 1-minute difference in Adobe Premiere with exporting. I'm gonna hold off for now, but there's nothing that tells me like this is an incredible machine. Performance is off the charts. It's just that for me to make another investment of $5,000 to $7,000 for the top tier machine, which is my workhorse, I'm gonna wait for maybe something more, whether it's a different display or a thinner design. But let's also look at this, an M4, all right? Let's not ignore this. An M4 14-inch MacBook Pro, the performance that you even get from that on the base level, this is gonna be able to do more than enough when you're talking about word processing, web browsing, photos, writing documents, and video editing, and photo editing, right? These are not chumps. I like to always tell y'all, upgrade when you absolutely have to, upgrade when it's within your budget, and you don't have to upgrade all the time. Pricing wise, the M4 14-inch MacBook Pro, that starts at $1,599. If you're looking at the 16-inch models, that starts with an M4 Pro, $2,499, which was the previous starting price point as before. So incredible machines. If you want my overall take, yes, good Apple, great Apple, solid Apple, it's all the above. These are incredible machines. It's just that I'm not really gonna upgrade yet. I'm gonna wait it out.